In the 1930s, a new party had risen up in Germany, the Nazis. They were a union party that was founded after World War I with Germany's defeat. Germany was left in a state of economic depression and downturn due to the treaties of Versailles. Adolf Hitler, a soldier who had fought in World War I, was angered by this depression and took part in founding a German Workers' Party, a union. He was known for his charismatic speaking, being able to convince a crowd that Germany was the superior race. He called the Germans the Aryan race. In 1921, he became the leader of the organization, and it became the National Socialist Workers' Party. In 1933, Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany. The Nazis soon became a form of government. Hitler, now in control of Germany, rebuilt the German army. He took Germany out of the League of Nations and continued to build his army beyond what was permitted by the treaty. Soon, Germany wanted to expand, and in 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. Britain and France immediately declared war after. However, there was no real combat until after the U.S. entered into the war, and the Battle of Guadalcanal was where the first actual combat happened. U.S. Marines launched a surprise attack off the coast of the Solomons, taking over an under-construction airbase.
In the European theater, after the defeat of France, Germany focused its attention on Britain. On the summer and fall of 1940, Germany's Air Force battled Britain's Royal Air Force in hopes of weakening Britain for a land invasion. In the Battle of Britain, there was the first battle fought entirely on the air. Germany was unsuccessful because their navy was destroyed and its forces depleted after the costly conquest of Norway. Britain's victory was possible because Winston Churchill led his people to not surrender even though some politicians went to negotiate with Hitler, and because they had very good pilots and great military leader, Air Marshal Darwin. In the Pacific theater, I believe that the Battle of Guadalcanal was the most important one. It started on June 8, 1942. The Solomon Islands, where the Japanese were building an airbase to block the sea link communication between the US and Australia. 2 months later, the US invaded the area. They fought the Japanese on a series of aerial, naval, and ground battles. The US won because they were able to out-strategize the Japanese, and this base would be later used for the airplanes that dropped the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
With the rise and fall of World War I came the newest innovations in war. Ever since the dawn of man, weapons were very limited in their effectiveness, and battles were fought mainly with swords and other melee weapons. When gunpowder was first discovered, it was quickly weaponized with the musket. It was a major milestone, but didn't do very well in performance. Battles continued to be fought with swords, and little development was made. However, when the modern rifle was first created, it paved the way for many more forms of killing. When the Wright brothers invented the first aircraft, it didn't take very long for the military to slap some guns on them. World War I was chaotic. Always battles happened in big fields or wide open spaces. Now with guns that could shoot so much farther, soldiers had no choice but to dig into the ground. The rules of war were completely revoked, for old-style fighting was completely irrelevant. After World War I, weapons and war machines continued to go through development and evolved to be stronger, faster, and more powerful. Aircraft were made with metal instead of wood. Tanks were faster and could travel farther. Weapons could shoot more and more accurate. The events of World War I helped shape the tactics and fighting style of armies forever. In the year 1939, Adolf launches an attack straight into Poland. He was very successful in gaining control because of his new tactic, blitzkrieg. Translating to flash war, soldiers could rush through war zones and take down enemy forces as fast as possible. Adolf had developed the strategy while being a German soldier in World War One. He observed how trench warfare was very slow and limited how much ground could be gained.
The Holocaust was a horrible thing that happened during World War II. It ended many innocent lives and was a subject of research. What was done to people is among the worst things imaginable, like taking infants from their mothers to see if they would survive without them, and the twin experiments that also took place. The German army would take Jewish people to concentration camps and have them work in factories. These factories would produce things to help the war effort in Germany's favor. Franklin D. Roosevelt was afraid after the bombing attack on Pearl Harbor. He feared that the current Japanese citizens would switch and help their motherland, so he ordered that they would be sent to camps like Manzanar-off in around like Texas, where they would live until the end of the war in 1945. The camps were really big, cramped towns that had to be upheld by the Japanese people, and they would build wells, farms, and even baseball grounds for sports and entertainment.